Death be not proud.
Well, all right, you ignorant pigs, put down your crack pipes and your beer bongs. It's time for an angry tabletop nerd show. I know I always try to say I want to get 6 of these a year, but it never seems to add up for me because nothing ever happens for the longest time, and then things start happening all at once. On today's show, I'm going to have my thoughts on the Saturnine debacle with the 30k third edition. Then I'm going to ask GW a straight up honest question. GW, what about the collector? Fuck the new customer. What about the collector? The whales. Okay?
I interest you in a butt fucking?
And then finally, my run in, Angry Tabletop Nerds run in with Pardo over there at SN Battle Reports. So let's just talk briefly about Games Workshop and the way that they're kind of running this 3-year cycle, because ever since 2017 came around, they're just dumping games on us every single 3 years. I know we've heard it before that GW is a business and they need to make money and hurt and dirt and dur. I know so much, and that's what everybody says. Yes, they're a business. Okay. Every 3 years, they need to do a major release to bump the sales up. Okay, this causes number on graph to go up. They also need some kind of quarterly sales bump. So every 2 to 3 months, they got to have some kind of release coming out to go from the black to the green in terms of their stock price. But ever since GW sold 3 to 6% of their business or their holdings to Larry Fink over there at BlackRock, if number doesn't go up, and there's a term for this, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head, they can become a holdings risk. And if number on graph doesn't go up and it goes down to a certain point, they can get sued by BlackRock. So they really didn't gain anything besides a lump sum of money by selling their shares to BlackRock. And this is a problem. Bandai has holdings that are sucked up by BlackRock. Hasbro. BlackRock has their tentacles in everything. And it's a load of BS. I've talked about it before on stream, and I've talked about it here and there in some of the prior shows, I'm sure of. And this is a problem, okay? So what is GW going to do? Are they, one thing they could do to solve this BlackRock issue is buy back those valuations, and then you do damage control to your company after that. If you have to shutter 100 locations and destroy over 100 to 200 jobs from those people who worked at those locations, then that is what you are going to have to do. I don't care what you have to do to get there, but you might need to unbuckle from BlackRock. Okay, you had that Luigi Mangione killer. I think it was the United Healthcare worker. Don't quote me on the company. He shot that guy in the back of the head, and then all of a sudden they were allowing claims to go through, and the share price of that company went down, and they got sued by BlackRock. So they don't want that to happen to them. So I guess this kind of goes into global control. I mean, that's why I got the InfoWars moniker up there. If BlackRock owns everything, they can bring in a cashless society, you see. That's all I'm going to do, I swear. Cashless society. And they'll know everything. They'll even know that you play Space Marines. Okay. But, so they essentially have to keep pumping out these new releases. And the problem is, it's getting to the point where the quality of the product has gone to complete and total shit. End of story. And if I owned a business, if I owned a game store, a lawn care company, a dump trucking business, it doesn't matter. I am someone who believes in a good product at a fair price. That is the most American way I can think of it, is a good product at a fair price. And they're not pumping out a good product anymore, and that's a whole issue. is that their quality in writing has gone down. It has been severely downgraded from where it was in 2010, 2015. And you get to, I think you got to 8th edition in 2017, 8th edition 40k, and they invalidated every book in 7th edition and completely changed the game, and they fixed a lot of the complaints that people had, and they started to go in the right direction. Okay? You don't need a new edition every 3 years unless you are going to work off the skeleton of the prior edition. Okay, case in point, when they went from Warhammer Fantasy 7th edition to Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition, and they went to these awesome hardbound books, everybody who didn't get a codex, or when you started, everybody who didn't get a codex basically had a book that they could still use. And they should have done the same thing. I know that GW has to sell books. This is not the point of that. We're still talking about quality. Having both Marine factions in two different, both Loyalist and Heretic factions, both in two different books, being very convenient. You have these rules. Everybody's using the same equipment, and then you know what the other army has. Oh, that's 3 Vindicators over there that I'm facing down on my left side, and that guy's got 3 Predators, and he's got 40 Marines. I know what they're going to be doing, and they're going to be coming right towards those objectives there and there. And I don't need a college degree to figure out what it is once I've been playing the game for a while. That's quality. Whereas what you have in Age of Sigmar or 40k these days, it's total shit. Oh, we liberated the rules. But we didn't really help you out that much because now you have to know the rules for all of the other factions. And so you have to download their PDF, read their PDFs, and then you have to move on to the next army just so you have an idea of what everybody's taking. Whereas in 5th edition, you had, a 30 to 40-page codex in 40k, and you got by fine with that. The game itself is still bloated as all hell. It's unplayable, and I do blame GW for having so many factions in 40k now. I think they're going to probably have 24 factions for 40k at some point, which means unless you're playing one of the top 5 armies, you are not getting a book every year. And of course, they screwed up the release of 10th edition so bad that we were begging for codexes. And then when they start coming out with those codexes, case in point, Krons, Tyranids, they got next day PDFs to fix it. This is bad quality products here. I do not want to spend $65 on a book or even $85 on a rule book and get a PDF the next day with no explanation, just because the fans backlashed, and because we live in the internet, you can backlash a lot faster. But you get a PDF the next day and a nice firm bouquet of middle fingers from the man GW. They basically abuse their customers in that regard, and it's never a, we're sorry, we were wrong, and we'll fix it. They only ever did that twice that I can think of. They did it for 6th edition 40k, and they did it for Lord of the Rings. And that was it. I'm trying to think of another time where they tried to make it right, and I'm coming up short. If you have one, put it in the comments. All right, but the basic premise is, let's say I have a nice big 5,000 to 10,000 point orc army. I'm a huge orc player. You have me. I'm a collector of orcs, okay? Every time a new edition came out in what do you call it? Whether it be 8th edition to 9th edition, all the way up to 10. You go through those 3 editions. And at least in 8th edition, I could find things to play amongst the collection of stuff that I had. And I went to the store, made some purchases. I said, I need this and this. And I walked away and I built those things and I added to my army. And that's part of the circle of life right there. We need repeat customers, okay? And I don't give a shit about profits. And, there's that billionaire guy who owns Arizona Iced Tea says, I'm profitable enough. It'll stay 99 cents. And then you also had like the president of Costco. He's like, or the owner of Costco, one of the big wigs. He's like, the hot dog price stands. End of story. Okay? Because so you go and you buy your tea, you get your hot dog. Those are good products at a great price. And their quality. You're getting a decent hot dog at Costco, and you're getting a can about this big. It hasn't even been subject to shrinkflation, But Arizona Iced Tea is not a publicly traded company that has tentacles inserted by BlackRock. Okay, but you get this new army, and you have a 5,000 point force, and all of a sudden, 9th edition drops. And everything you have is invalidated to about 1,500 points of what you own that is good. So that forces you to go to the store and you spend $2,000 and you buy the Speed Freaks. Oh, Speed Freaks are good again. They give me back Speed Freaks. I start a giant Speed Freaks army. I think it took me a good year to get all my Speed Freak stuff done. And then they ended the edition and I no longer had Speed Freaks. And this is shit quality too. You have the best example of this is the World Eaters Codex in 9th edition, and there's a meme, one of those Chad Smolder memes, where some guy's like asking, the World Eater asked Chad, everybody's got to ask Chad, was I a good codex? And Chad said to the World Eater, I don't know, man, I only got in like 3 games before they killed the edition. And that brings up the next subject. But before we get there, let's talk about the Skaventide box. Okay, they do a complete rework of the rules. They come out with this awesome box that they think everybody's going to buy. They even they invalidate a whole ton of the Sigmar Marines. Because, as I said in a prior stream, somewhere along the way, or a show, I said the reason why they're getting rid of the Sigmar Marines and they're coming out with brand new ones is because it was a product that had matured. They sold so many of those things, like everybody had them. I never bought any, but everybody had them, and they were basically like the iPhone of the wargaming world. They were everywhere, okay? And now there's different chapters of them. They're just basically Space Marines for fantasy, but they had to reinvent them in some way so that you buy them again. And that doesn't really give rise to originality. I even said it back when they came out with the Primaris Space Marines. Oh, we got slightly bigger Space Marines. The true scale guys are showing up to the fight now. And then eventually they ended the old Mark 8s, Captain Titus and all those guys. Well, they're Primaris now, but they ended that, and they're basically saying, maybe we'll stick the Mark 8s in at the end of Heresy or something like that. But they slowly invalidate things. I understand that you need to change your brand up and get better. That's true. But now you're basically getting to a point where you're killing collectors, you're killing kit bashing. Nothing says I love you like a 70-piece Castellax plastic robot. Who has time to build a 70-piece model that's in your core infantry? I sure as fuck don't. I mean, they've got these very hyper-specific models now that you can't even kit bash, and they stick together in such a way that if you miss one piece or if you don't glue it together right, the model isn't going to look right. And you got to be an expert. And they sell these as expert kits. These models were so bad that my friend put them back in the box, and he's probably one of the most accomplished builders that I know. He was a mechanic by trade. There isn't, model cars, RC cars. There isn't anything that he can't build or convert. If I had to compare him to someone, he could outcraft even the craft channels and the big converters out there. He is that good. And the thing that broke his back were those Castellax robots. He just went and printed the ones that he needed, and they were 5 pieces. You're getting kits that are like way too many pieces. What you're not seeing in this release with this Legacies thing is seeing how do you make soldiers that don't exist. Well, you buy these 2 kits. They at least gave you that in Old World. How do you make Bretonnian Brigandines? You buy the Militia box set, See? And the Men at Arms box set, and you build your own custom models and you have a little bit of fun. All right? That's not that complicated. They could have done the same thing for Warhammer 30k, but they decided not to. So Skaven Tide did really bad. Lots of stores bought it, and they were left with those products on their shelves with a bouquet of middle fingers from Games Workshop. Thank you for buying this. Oh, look, I got a nice $5,000 bump in sales, but now I have 20 of these stupid things laying around, and by the time they're done with this Skaven Tide box, because Age of Sigmar's 3rd edition sucked so bad, it sucked Donkey Kong Dong so bad that even my friends stopped playing it. They stopped playing it. As well, they did stop playing 10th. And, these are old guard gamers that they couldn't even give the Skaven Tide box away at LVO as a piece of swag. They eventually went to the clearance rack, and this is another problem. They don't let you out of your contract if something doesn't sell. And, most store owners don't staff correctly, and some are very lazy people. About the only thing you could have done to get your money back on the Skaven Tide box, if I had 5 of those stupid things, I would have literally just shucked them all open, built them, painted them, and then sold them on eBay at full price. That's what I would have done, because that's the only way you get out. The store would have. This is why some stores, they run a little shadow operation. You have somebody come in and poach the extra stock at the. I think you're allowed a maximum of 15% discount if you're a store, maybe 20. Don't quote me on that. And they come in and they poach those, and then they're still working for the same guy or their co-owner. They're a silent partner. And then they have to open those up, paint them, and sell them on eBay. Because once you do that, GW forfeits all rights to the product. And, I didn't see a lot of stores doing that. You couldn't even give them away as swag at LVO. From what I've gathered, Saturnine is pretty much going the same place. And let's talk about, the big number one thing is collection invalidation. Okay, I've already mentioned that you could have 5,000 points of 40k orcs, and then all of a sudden only 1,500 points of what you own is good. That's not good for the hobby, and it's not good for the true hobbyist. And, I understand that if I owned a business, if I owned a game store, yes, I need to sell the models, but I should be trying to push the sales of anything and everything that I can. I don't care about the kid who comes in, spends $300 on Games Workshop products, and I don't give a shit if I ever see that kid again. All right, there's your new guy. He got home, opened up all this stuff, realizes it's a ton of work. It's a ton of work to build, assemble, paint, base, get this stuff on the table. It's a ton of work. Probably got intimidated, sold the crap on eBay, and then somebody else benefited from that. That's the circle of life. All right, you got to, if you own a business, and you're selling miniatures, you got to be looking for that guy who's going to come in, spend his $300, and he'll either come back or he won't. Okay, everything is very faded in retail. And then you might have your regulars. And they're the ones you want coming in. They're the ones that have the money. And the 30K player base, they're the regulars. They're literally the customer base with, I'm going to say, the most money. The most money. There are people who have some pretty impressive collections out there. And, it's funny when I see 30K armies sell on eBay, it's always for a premium. I got lucky when I bought my Imperial Guard. I bought a used Imperial Guard army and decided to add to it. I said to a friend of mine, I'll dabble in 30K with you. Truth was, I got hooked. I started Iron Warriors. I started Death Guard this year. I've got a 2,000 point Death Guard army, and I've bought a bunch of tanks this year for my my Iron Warriors. I got to put those together, and all of those came off of the shelves of somebody's store. And that's that repeat business. But you go out and then you go and you invalidate people's collections, and you do things that that make absolutely no sense. Like, I was looking at the Legacies 100-page PDF for Adeptus Astartes. Why are Havocs in Legacy? Why can't you just put Havocs in the rules? You don't need a model for Havocs. It's literally just a guy with a fucking autocannon. That's it. I painted my Havocs. I painted their autocannons a fancy red color so that I would always know that they're the Iron Havocs. And then if I was playing in a different game and I wanted them to have las cannons, I can paint up another unit of heavy weapons and call them the Iron Havocs. Then you have this awesome Iron Warriors Warsmith, and then he gets put into Legacy for some reason. You make a new model and then you don't even add it to the new edition. That is called lack of quality control. And those are just a couple of examples. There are a lot of subject matter videos that have come out about this. And, I'm going to just go a different route. I'm just going to talk about me personally. Another problem I have 30 Tartarus Terminators. Then they made this bullshit of like, oh, well, they can't have Power Fists anymore. All of which, except for 10 who have Lightning Claws, are armed with Power Fists. Now, why would they be armed with Power Fists? They come in the box and they're Imperial Fists. Do I want them to have the Solarite Power Gauntlet? Yes, I do. End of story. They got the Solarite Power Gauntlet. That was kind of the point of them having the Power Fists. I also looked at the army when I bought it used before expanding to it and everything and making the army my own by adding to it. I also bought vehicles and everything like that, and then they change up all the vehicle rules, and then maybe some of the vehicles I own aren't that good. But I don't want to buy a $315 box set to have to rely on a 150-page PDF because you motherfuckers were too stupid. And this is stupidity, to make the game system run off of the prior edition of rules. You need that backwards compatibility with the prior edition. Then people show up out of the woodwork, they give the game a go, they're ready to go, they have an idea, they read the rules really quickly, it clicks because you worked off of the skeleton of a system that was actually pretty darn good. It was a 4, and I review systems all the time. I'll tell you whether or not they suck. I'll give you a score on a scale of 1 to 5. 30K, despite its book layout, a lot like Old World, 30K was kind of like up here. When I play a game of 30K, it's like I'm sitting down with an old friend and I'm young again and I'm playing 5th edition in a store or something like that, and I've got that kind of vibe from the game. And I give the rule set of 30K about a 4 out of 5. Except for when my friend comes and it crushes my will to live with his Mechanicum, his Dark Mechanicum. The darkest of Mechanicum armies. Nubian God. Fuck you, Anacarius Scoria.
That's what a pussy would say.
Never gonna let it go. All right? But this Legacy's PDF is just damage control. Call it what it is. It's complete and total damage control. I went into the game store not too long ago. I made some purchases, and I bought this guy. I didn't even need this guy. I have a completely painted dwarf army. I've just said, you know what? I'm thinking Slayers.
You removed it from its original packaging.
No! It's no longer a collectible! Oh!
It was an impulse buy. You got my money right there. I bought some paints, and I bought some of those overpriced movement trays, and I went about my merry way. I didn't give a shit. And I want you to think about this. That dwarf, those movement trays, and the 2 washes that I bought, I think cost me about $85 with my discount. He's got the $50 deal. It sucks. Store owner dickhead. Every now and then I pay store owner dickhead a visit. All right. And then after the tournament, I used my credits that I got. I had 2 credits built up at about $45 a piece. I bought some orc chariots, and I bought some normal Green Garden variety goblins because I have some Mantic chariots showing up, and I'm going to do this thing that Games Workshop doesn't think that you're capable of doing anymore because we didn't make a model for it, and we hate you if you do it. Bad baby, bad baby. I'm going to kit bash me some goblin chariots. You better watch out because I looked at the old model. It's a little dated. You know, I mean, sure, I can buy one chariot for $40, or I can get 3 from Mantic for, the same price. I can get 3 in the same box. And I just need goblins on a chariot. And these are fine. I have I already use a lot of the Mantic Wolf Riders in my tournament armies because my Wolf Riders that I have for Games Workshop were some of the oldest models that I own, and they look dated. And I have a box of 15 new Games Workshop Wolf Riders sitting over there. I mean, I could just look. I'm just looking at pending projects. I can tell you the pile of shame from here. I've got 1 kill rig, 1 boss on a Squigosaur, the Chariots box, a box of Boar Boys, an Elf Dragon for my vampire counts. I have a vampire that I made in there, and then I've got the Garden Green variety goblins. And then there's a whole bunch of historical shit upstairs. I might have to send some of these Macedonians out to get finished. It never ends around here. But they should have used the 2 books from the second edition. They should have gone that route. You basically, I think, made Skaven Tide 2.0 probably. You know, I mean, and then the thing that I really, really, really don't like are the frickin' influencers putting a positive spin on everything that Games Workshop does. Okay? So we're going to, and, I watched the good, the bad, and the ugly from SM Battle Reports. Now, granted, I was never a subscriber. I did watch a couple of his battle reports back in the day when he did them for Old World. And I think he was only involved in one of them, and they had to borrow the armies to do that. I think they each owned 1 army, and they had to borrow the dwarf army. And they had a guy come in who had an orc army, and they played a 6th edition game. They played, I think, 4 games of Old World. Don't quote me on that. And then cut it off cold turkey. And that was about at time of release. And then he comes out and he does this live stream. See, they're coming out with the Legacy PDF, you guys. It's all good, you guys. It's all good. And I said something to the effect of, Pardo is just going to weasel into 3rd edition, kiss the ring of GW, but before he goes to kiss that ring, he's got to walk through the hallway in Die Hard with no shoes to basically, kiss that ring. And I said, nothing more to see here, unsub. I was never subbed. I was just telling other people to unsub. And then I got a couple replies from this guy, and and this is the best. This is a successful trolling right here. After looking at your content, thank goodness. Bye-bye. I can see this angry piece of ugly Euro trash just sitting there, okay? All right, just downvote, bad baby. Yeah, that ought to show that stupid Yankee Doodle dandy. Who are you, Squidward from SpongeBob? You getting even with me by dissing my content? I'm just a fucking vlogger. That's it. This channel is me talking about my day-to-day life and hobbies, horror movies, any hobby that I have, kickboxing, horror movies, working out, calling women fat, and Warhammer. Those are my hobbies, okay? And he's like, after looking at you, I appreciate you coming down to look, Squidward. Thank you. But I could just see him sitting there in his dirty undies, just downvoting me because I got under his skin, to which I replied, you live in Europe? That's punishment enough. And this is the best part right here. This motherfucker comes back. Wrong again. We're actually in the UK. Like that's a step up. Okay, I already know that you were born in one of the pigs nations, Pardo. You were born, I think, either in Portugal or Spain. One of the two. Any two, I mean, those are the pigs countries, okay? You got, I put France in there too because, you know, the pigs countries. We know how to live. That's the problem with you American scumbags. You don't know how to live. We live in these special utopian socialist hellholes where if you don't want to work after 45, you don't have to. But we bring the vino because our countries don't produce anything. I guess he had to leave Spain because of the blackouts with their power grid because they went all solar and wind and shut down every one of their coal plants and now nobody's happy. They live in utter darkness. Or you went into the UK where you have to live in constant fear of Muslim knife attacks or constant riots whenever one of these stupid sons of bitches gets mistreated by the law. I mean, Europe or the UK is not a step up. It is not a step up. And, you know, I wanted to come back at him with something, but him telling me like he lives in the UK and he's proud of that, I guess that might be a step up from Spain, which is probably like the worst country in the EU. I can't think of one thing I'd want in Spain. All right. But at the same time, I think they go down to Madrid and that's where they hold their snooty little tournaments and everything like that. I'm sure it's a nice event. But the problem that I have with him is that he puts this positive spin on it like he's working for Games Workshop. Maybe at one point in his career as a YouTuber, he was independent. There comes a point when some channels are getting so fucking fake, it's just clear that they are working for Games Workshop. Now, big companies do this all the time. They hire hype men. Bandai, I think, has employed Umi Shinonome quite a few times to talk about Gundam products. Gundam being way more popular than 40k any day of the week, but they hire actual idols. And I would rather take the insults from Umi Shinonome because at least if she gave them to me, that would give me a feeling of accomplishment. Oh, wow. A hot Japanese chick took notice of me and insulted me, whereas now I'm just dealing with Euro trash. Okay? So they do this all the time. Pardo, if you work for a subsidiary media company, whether it's owned by YouTube, Games Workshop, or even a Games Workshop subsidiary media company. And big companies have these wings that are off the books. I wouldn't be surprised if there were 5 different monikers of Games Workshop out there that we don't know about, and a lot of the influencers that we see work for them. Okay? There are channels, I believe it starts at 30. There are 30 subsidiary media companies owned by Google alone. And how many companies do those companies own? Because it seems like in the creator space, you either off-grid like me and finding people like Crown of Command or JVC Paints or Johnny Watson Wargaming, just to name a few. VK Von Ketteringham, Leon T66. Well, we named a good amount there. There are people in the creator space who are kind of just off-grid and they're vlogging about things that they painted, or they actually have a legit channel or something like that, and they seem more organic. Whereas you kind of come off as fake, like the way you defended Games Workshop in 3rd edition. It's almost like you're working for them. Now, you mentioned in your video, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, as you were going around SN, showing off all your toys that the patrons themselves paid for. You mentioned that you have a staff of 6 working for you. What are you paying that staff of 6 with? Breadcrumbs? Because I went over to your Patreon just for a look, and you don't even have the amount of patrons, and I'm not bashing you, that Eons of Battle has. And that's just a 2-man Yankee Doodle operation. 2 guys living their crazy dream, like hipsters owning a burger restaurant that's completely overpriced. Okay? And even if I gave you $15 for your 158 patrons from each guy, that's still, I think that's 2730. Don't quote me on that. It's that might be it might be in the 2300 range, just off the top of my head. That's not enough to pay a staff of 6. Even if you had that many channel members, that is still not enough to pay a staff of 6. Even if you had a painting service, that maybe you do, I don't know everything that there is to know about you, that's still not enough to pay a staff of 6 who has to live in a Eurotrash country with a first world standard and is taxed at the rate that Europeans are for their bullshit and everything. That's not enough. Do all of your staff shop at Asda? You know, fucking Asda, the state-owned grocery store. You should be happy you get to shop at Asda because we don't have an economy left. But do they all shop at Asda? What do you pay them with? Breadcrumbs? You have a staff of 6 working for you. You have a very high quality professional polish on your videos, except for when you live stream, then you look like a ghoul from the Tales of the Crypt. How do you pay them? Just come out and say that they cut you a check, and everything will get better. That's all you have to do. Same with Tabletop Tactics. I guarantee they were getting cut a check because getting freebies. He mentioned that there were 3 people out there that he knew of who got the rules early enough and they got the models early enough to study, paint, and get the battle reports out there. I know that Winter's SEO, he'll do whatever he wants. He is not getting cut a check. He's an independent. A lot like Seven Sun Wargaming. Huge in the historical setting. And, he maybe he does get a sponsorship every now and then to do something for Warlord. I don't know. He's very hard to keep up on. So, I hope he drops me a line pretty soon on Instagram and we can chat again because he's kept me informed a few times. So, I do have an inexorbitant amount of British fans that do keep me in the loop. But how are you living then if you have a staff of 6? Well, quite clearly, you have taken some GW money. Maybe that came from the BlackRock Fund. I don't know. But the way that the influencer class defends the new edition, and they always come out and they make battle reports. They made battle reports for Old World, and I don't think that Tabletop Tactics, I think they came out with one like 4 months later, and that was it. All the big channels go right back to pushing 40K. They go right back to pushing Age of Sigmar and whatever the hell these channels do. What does that leave us? It leaves us with fake content creators that are spinning a narrative saying, this isn't lemon juice, this is orange juice. You should drink it. It's good. Everything's going to be good. But I don't think that you should buy this product just based on the fact that you have an entire PDF. The product isn't ready. Saturnine is not ready. There's a 100. This is just one of the PDFs. This is just the Legionis Astartes PDF by itself. And it's over 100 pages. I'm sitting here on page 75 with the Iron Havocs. They should have just been part of the book for the Iron Warriors if you were going to make a book. This is why you should have worked off of the core of those 2 books that you already had. But it's like we have to invalidate everything so that you go and you buy more. Well, I'd hate to have to tell you this. If you start to crush the collectors out of the hobby, you're not going to have anything to fall back on. And me and my friend were talking about this a little bit this morning because we like to jab at some of the guys in our group and have a good laugh about how gay everyone is. Maybe if they showed up the group, they would stop talking shit. But, we have those kind of conversations. And he's like, okay, yeah, I have a 3D printer, but I'm a collector. I spent $185 to get the Warriors of Chaos box set because I like the look of the models. And again, the models are not overly complicated. He can have that box built in a day and a half. I know him. He'll have it. When he wants to smoke his crack pipe and get to work, he can put even me to shame. And I'm always turning out something on this table, which is like the unforeseen part of the hobby that I try to bring to light every single day I stream. You know, I'll talk about something, then I'll sit down and paint. I'll talk about what I've been doing in the hobby. But I always stress that this hobby is a lot of work. And if you start to crunch the workers out of the hobby, they're going to start picking up prior editions of the game. Saturnine is not ready for release. If you want to buy it, go ahead. I'm not telling you what to do with your own money. But this bullshit where you get a PDF after the fact. And if I had seen this shit and I had pre-ordered the box, I would cancel my pre-order. If you have any sense whatsoever, you'd cancel your pre-order for Saturnine, because that's just total bollocks. Like the song, like the album, never mind the bollocks that they have a giant PDF that you now have to add to an even more complicated rule book. I think it's 18 pages for vehicle rules in the new edition. It might be 15, but I heard 18. To explain vehicles, it's all well and good, but you already had a book that you could have worked off of. And this, we need a brand new game every 3 years bullshit is going to start compounding and pushing guys like me out of the hobby. And I guess Pardo would be like, good riddance to bad rubbish. No. I'm in Spain. Hey. What's that? An African coming to stab me with the machete. There you go. At least we're deporting our migrants. But the problem is we're looking at other editions. We're going to look at second edition. We're just going to stay there. We're going to sit the edition out. We were playing 8th edition. I made a couple of battle reports about that. We had a lot of fun. That was the key word there. And when we had a nice 2,000-point game, we spent 20 minutes looking up rules, plural. Not like when we play a game of Old World where we're spending 20 minutes looking up one rule because of the shitty layout of the book. And that's another problem. It's a low-quality book. Sure, you get this nice, bright, shiny book. I want a little flip book like this. I want a $30 book that's like this that I can abuse, put down, underline. My books are marked up to hell. There is no resale value in any of my books because I have to write little notes, scribble little notes in them, write things down. I like at the table of contents, I have in the index alone, I have some extra notes of where shit is, because clearly in the UK, of all places, where they invented our language, they haven't mastered the language enough to come out with a decent table of contents at the beginning of the book, then have some clarified rules, then you come to the end of the rules, you right at the end of the rule book, you give us the rules in short form. That's what Rick Priestley did in Hail Caesar. Then he has a glossary of key words, then he has an index that actually works. Clearly, you've forgotten that in the UK. I mean, at least if I was going to write a novel, I'd include a glossary and a table of contents and maybe a map of where it is I'm talking about. They can't even do that. It's like, and then we get the 1.5 version in the Old World, and the big problem there is, I have to study up for the next tournament, and I won that tournament. I did good, but I said in the video I would like to relearn the rules from the ground up because I feel like I'm backtracking because of this 1.5 shit. Now, at least it was a good fix, and it came out a year later, not the next day after buying my Tyranids Codex that I have a PDF that I have to read that invalidates the point cost in the book because we made some things that were just a little bit too good because we wanted them to sell. And you can't have a game like that. You have to have a game where everything is somewhat useful. Again, case in point, I refer to this on stream all the time. Conquest, Last Argument of Kings, it's a free-for-all. And a lot of the stuff that you can buy for your army has a use and a purpose, and you can put it in your army and you can play it, and and just having that one unit isn't going to cause you to get a turn one tabling. Yeah, man, I don't know what you were thinking, bringing just normal orcs. You got to bring beast snaggers, bro. You should have bought those beast snaggers. You ran the wrong kind of orcs, bro. I ran boys. I ran what I had. Well, that's just, they're not good anymore, bro. Well, I'm sorry. I guess I'll point them. No, you got to buy the models. So if you want to sell the models, you got to make the models somewhat good. Conquest works like Hordes did back in the olden days, where it's like, I have some broken shit, you have some broken tricks, I have a bag full of tricks, and you have pocket sand. And that's kind of where the balancing comes in. But dumping games on the community and then expecting us to do the playtesting for you is becoming tiresome. That's what you did with Warhammer 40k 10th edition. Game sucks Donkey Kong Dong. We already mentioned in our group that if we want to play 40k, we're just going to go and play 9th edition because everybody here still has their books. And 9th edition was a 4 out of 5 system. It was actually pretty good. You could at least have some things, but now that the games are getting so bloated, you're not going to have time to write all of the rules that you need to write for these. And I think that was a good thing that they do get it to a certain extent. They get it to a certain extent that in Old World they had to put some models in Legacy, and they only have some factions that are relevant, okay? So you got Empire, Orcs and Goblins, Dwarf Mountain Halls, Warriors of Chaos, Bretonnian, Beastmen, Brayherds, Wood Elves, Tomb Kings, and High Elves. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Grand Cathay makes 10. Everybody else is a Legacy faction. Why 10? You don't want more than 12 armies because you don't have enough time in the lifespan of a 3-year edition to give everybody a book. And if it's not backwards compatible and you just come out with new rules every 3 years and give everyone the finger, they start with nothing again. And even they fall out. I was against Grand Cafe coming out for the initial reason was vampire counts are so popular that they should have done a campaign supplement that included a list for them, but not in the way that you would think. You have to bring Dieter Hellschnicht because he's part of this campaign. And you have those things in there. You can use those things in tournaments. They give you a small list, but he doesn't have the full volume of a book behind him. He probably, you give him 12 units that he uses in his army, and then you get Dieter. Okay? So that's like he's got a Vampire Thrall, Necromancer, White King, Banshees, and those are his 5 characters. Then he's got Skeletons, Zombies, Wolves, Graveguard, Black Knights. Okay, so we're already pushing the amount there. Maybe you give them the Vargulfs and what do you call it? Crypt Horrors or something like that. And that's what he uses in his army. And he's got a supplement that works. They should have gone that route. Instead, they added a new army and they had to invent rules and insert them later. Maybe they already had these rules written. Seems like they had a good deal of these rules written. But that's about the long and the short of it. Pardo, if you're working for Games Workshop subsidiaries, or even if you are working for a small media subsidiary company that answers to Games Workshop or Google, you just say so. And everything that you say would be valid. Okay, this is how you make your money. This is how you pay your staff of 6. This is how you get all those nice painted armies that you don't have to work on. And you were sitting there crying and bitching about how, all of these Tartarus Terminators have power gloves. Ha ha ha. Good thing I don't have to do the work on that. I have people do it for me. Well, I'm sorry, I don't have people to do things for me. I actually have to work a real job and build this fucking city and do the maintenance on it. Somebody's got to. I mean, the road work never stops in my state. At least we can build roads. Unlike you Euro trash with your goat tracks and your crisscrosses and your everything's like 1,000 years old and has cobblestone. Your roads are like shit. You should come see you should come see our 12-lane super highway I-15. It's the size of one of your twisted cities. Anyway, that's about it for me. I thought I would just get this rant out tonight. I went a little long, but wargaming for me is about getting together with a group of friends. And if you can't find a group of friends and all you have is tournaments, you might as well just get out. Get out to some of those tournaments and play. But you're never gonna have the fulfillment of having a group. And if you have to take your group into the basement, that's all. You can recruit from there. We've had a lot of renditions of our group. We've had a lot of people that get churned out. We even had my best friend's brother retire because he lost a game, and it broke his mind temporarily. There you go. So, if you want to get in touch with me, the best way to do that is on Instagram. Link in the description. I get an algorithmic demotion for that as well, for having links to other sites. But I do like talking to other gamers, which is why I started my YouTube channel, to meet other gamers. And then if you are so kind, don't forget to leave a like and a comment on this video. I have recently discovered that the algorithmic suppression rate for likes on my videos is for every 8 likes I get, YouTube will let me keep 1 like. But if you tie that like to a comment, I immediately get to keep the like. This video will also be up on Rumble. That's usually the home of all my live streams, so don't forget to check me out over on Rumble. And in case I don't see you, keep playing, keep collecting, keep painting, because I'm not going to stop. I'll still collect in some capacity, even if I fall out of GW mainstream games altogether. Keep collecting, keep painting, and stay metal, my friends, and we'll see you in the next one.
Even you, puppy dog.
Hey, you need to grow a sack!